to Alexander Clarke, a British naval historian and security expert at the Centre for International Maritime Security. Alexander, good to have you with us. So what do you make of Britain's decision to send another warship to the Persian Gulf? Do you think this is the start of a boosted military presence there?
No, it's very much not. It's a continuation of what is already likely to be continued. How do I put it? HMS Montrose was always going to have to go off task because HMS Montrose is a forward deployed ship and it takes time to get the crew generated and bring the crew round. So HMS Duncan was always going to be deployed out there. This is very much a continuation as normal. The only thing is we're making rather a big noise about it, and the reason we are is to make sure the Iranians realize there isn't going to be no dip in presence. It's basically like if you have your local policeman on patrol in the streets, instead of the person coming on at lunchtime to cover the person going off for their lunch, the person who's coming on at lunchtime is turning up a bit early to make sure everyone sees it's a handover between the two cops. And it's the same scenario in the Straits of Hormuz, which are an interesting scenario because they, at their minimum, are 21 miles long, 21 miles wide, which is the same length roughly as the Bosphorus. So it's a very narrow patch of water.
So, sorry to interrupt you there, Alexander. The US, of course, very worried about security in the Strait of Hormuz. It's proposing a joint naval force with France and the UK to be able to escort tankers through that stretch of waterway. So far, the UK and France not really keen to get on board with this. Do you think that's something that we might see?
We might, but it's a very complicated task. And honestly, it's going to sound strange, but one of the best navies in NATO, which they could be calling on, would be the Turkish Navy, which has a lot of ships which are designed for this sort of idea of conflict, this sort of level of frigate, general purpose duties. The Royal Navy in France are very well equipped with anti-submarine warfare frigates, which are very good, but they're high-end assets, which means that using them for these tasks use up their life and is very costly versus what you need them to do. Ideally, the Royal Navy, if they were going to escalate their presence, would probably be actually sending one of their new Batch 2 River-class patrol vessels out there to supplement the existing frigate. And again, for the Americans, sending a destroyer like an Arleigh Burke is a rather sort of, yes, you keep one there as presence for the protection of the air defense and those sort of deals that counter any Iranian missile threat. But actually, for this to deal with small boats, you want enough ships, and you need basically a large number of ships wandering around keeping eyes on things, because small boats, it's far more difficult to see them in such narrow waters.
Yeah, and just how much disruption could Iran cause here? Because the Revolutionary Guard are being accused of using boats to try and force ships off course and using limpet mines. They've been accused of attacking tankers. So just how volatile is the security situation, do you think?
It can get very complicated very quickly. It's one of those scenarios where it's going to sound terrible, but it depends on how stupid your local commander is versus how bright they are, how much they think they can get away with. In the Iranian scenario, you have a very much divested command and divested responsibility going on, and you have their rules of engagement. Now, they have pink lines. They think things they think they can get away without causing a war, i.e. shooting down a drone. It doesn't cost any lives, so there's no repercussions. It's, again, with the attacks on tankers. They've claimed it's not them. We have evidence. It's gone back and forth. These things have meant that it's murky, so nothing's done. As long as they have deniability, they think they can get away with it, which is probably true. But the moment they do something like board a tanker, like board a warship, like threaten something, they will escalate it past that line. And it only takes one commander pushing their luck a bit more, and then you have a scenario where the West has to respond. And if the West has to respond, Iran, because of its own internal rhetoric, will also have to respond. And when you have both sides having to respond, then you're likely to have escalation, and that's when things become very problematic. And you have scenarios like the tanker wars that were many years ago, were a key feature of our politics in the region.
Alexander, thank you very much indeed for that. Good to get your analysis there. Dr. Alexander Clarke there.